Picture this. A general with no money, no treasury, and no medals to give decides to invent one anyway, out of purple cloth. That decision, made 244 years ago today, created the oldest military award still handed to American heroes right now, in 2026. It's August 7th, 1782. The Revolutionary War isn't quite over. Independence hasn't even been formally recognized yet. And General George Washington is camped with the Continental Army at New Windsor, New York, just outside a place called Newburgh. Picture the scene for a moment. Canvas tents strung along the riverbank, campfires burning low, and an army that has spent years fighting for a country that technically doesn't exist yet on paper. His men are exhausted. Many haven't been paid in months, sometimes years. Congress is broke. The army itself is barely holding together on promises and pride. There's no steady supply line, no guarantee of what tomorrow brings, only the daily grind of holding a fragile cause together through sheer will. And Washington has a problem that money can't solve. How do you honor a soldier's courage when you don't have anything to give him? His answer is almost radical for its time. On this day, sitting at his headquarters, Washington issues an order establishing what he calls the Badge of Military Merit. It's a simple piece of purple cloth, cut into the shape of a heart, meant to be worn over the left breast of a soldier's uniform. No gold, no jewels, just fabric and thread sewn by hand, meant to sit quietly over a man's heart, close enough to feel every heartbeat beneath it. But here's what makes it extraordinary. Washington writes that the badge is to be awarded not for rank, not for wealth, not for connections, but purely for, in his words, singularly meritorious action. Any soldier, no matter how humble his station, could earn it. In an era when European armies handed out honors almost exclusively to officers and nobility, Washington is proposing something almost unthinkably democratic. That valor belongs to whoever earns it, whether he's a general standing at the front of the column or the lowest-ranked private marching behind him, mud on his boots and nothing to his name. Think about what that meant in 1782. This is an army built from farmers, blacksmiths, fishermen, men who left their plows and their shops to fight for an idea that didn't even have a name for its own government yet. And their commander is telling them, "I see you. Not your birth, not your bank account, your character." Washington's order actually spells it out. He writes that the road to glory in a patriot army and a free country should be open to all. That single sentence is arguably one of the earliest expressions of a distinctly American value, stitched, literally, into military tradition before the country's constitution even existed. It's worth pausing on that timing. This idea of merit over pedigree was being written into practice years before it was ever written into law, quietly taking shape in a field camp long before it was etched into any founding document. So who actually got one? This is where it gets even more interesting, because the badge was almost never given out. Records show only 3 soldiers are documented as receiving the Badge of Military Merit during the Revolutionary War, and all 3 were sergeants in the Continental Army from Connecticut. Sergeant William Brown, Sergeant Elijah Churchill, and Sergeant Daniel Bissell each received one for distinguished actions. Churchill's award is especially notable. He's believed to be the very first recipient, honored for his valor leading raids against fortified enemy positions on Long Island. Imagine that moment. A sergeant, not a general, standing before his commander to receive the very first piece of cloth of its kind in American history, a small square of purple fabric that carried more weight than any medal made of metal. 3 men, out of an entire war. That's how rare and how meaningful this honor was meant to be, not a participation ribbon, but a rare and deliberate acknowledgement reserved for genuinely exceptional courage, given only when the act truly demanded it. And then, it disappears. After the war ends and the army demobilizes, the Badge of Military Merit essentially vanishes from use. No formal military award system existed yet in the way we think of one today, and without an active army or a structure to maintain it, the tradition just quietly fades. For well over a century, it sits dormant, tucked away in the historical record like a forgotten keepsake, a footnote easy to overlook amid the larger story of a young nation finding its footing. Generations of American soldiers fight in the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, and World War I, all without this particular award existing. You'd think an idea this powerful would have caught on immediately and spread through the ranks. Instead, it waits patiently for someone to remember it, sitting in the pages of history while entire wars come and go without it. Now here's the twist that brings this whole story back around. Fast forward to 1932. The country is preparing to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and the Army's chief of staff at the time, a general named Douglas MacArthur, who would go on to become one of the most famous military commanders in American history, decides this is the moment to resurrect Washington's forgotten badge. On February 22, 1932, exactly 2 centuries after Washington was born, the War Department officially revives the honor. They give it a new name, the Purple Heart, and redesign it as a medal, a purple heart-shaped decoration bearing Washington's profile, hanging from a purple and white ribbon. But the spirit stays exactly the same. It's still meant to honor the sacrifice of the individual soldier, and this time, its purpose sharpened specifically to recognize those wounded or killed in service to their country. What began as a scrap of cloth handed out by a general with empty pockets becomes, a century and a half later, a formal decoration carrying his own likeness. Since that revival almost a century ago, the Purple Heart has been awarded to well over 1 million American service members. It's given to those wounded or killed as a result of enemy action while serving in the United States military. A physical, tangible acknowledgement that says, your body bore the cost of this nation's freedom, and that will never be forgotten. Because of its unbroken lineage back to Washington's 1782 order, the Purple Heart holds a unique title. It is officially the oldest military decoration in present use anywhere in the United States Armed Forces, and by extension, one of the oldest awards of its kind in the world still actively given today. A straight, unbroken thread connects that quiet campsite order to every medal presented since. And that brings us back to today's date, August 7th. Because this isn't just the anniversary of a piece of purple cloth. Since 2014, the United States has formally recognized August 7th as National Purple Heart Day, a day set aside to honor every man and woman who has received this decoration, and to remember the ones who earned it but never came home to wear it. Communities across the country mark it by flying Purple Heart flags, holding ceremonies, and simply pausing to say thank you to those who carry both the medal and the scars that earned it, a small, quiet gesture of gratitude echoing the same intention Washington had all those years ago. What strikes me most about this story isn't the medal itself, it's the reasoning behind it. Washington didn't create the badge of military merit because he had resources to spare. He created it because he had almost nothing else to give. No back pay, no pensions, no guarantee the country he was fighting for would even survive its own founding. So he gave his soldiers something that couldn't be bought, sold, or inherited: recognition, earned purely through character and courage. That idea that merit should never be limited by rank or wealth is baked into the very fabric of that first Purple Heart. It's a small thread, but you can trace it all the way through American history, from a quiet campsite in New York in 1782, through a century of silence, through MacArthur's decision to bring it back, right up to the medals being presented to service members this year, in 2026, exactly 244 years later. So the next time you see a small purple and white ribbon on a veteran's chest, or hear someone mention the Purple Heart, remember it's not just a modern military decoration. It's a direct, unbroken echo of a decision George Washington made on a rough campsite in New York, at one of the lowest, most uncertain moments of the Revolutionary War, a decision to say that true honor belongs to anyone brave enough to earn it, regardless of who they were before they earned it. If this kind of story, the hidden history behind America's most familiar symbols, is something you enjoy, stick around. There's a lot more where this came from. Hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what piece of American history you'd like to see uncovered next.